Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Now on today's video, I do want to take things back to basics as we start off the new year. I want to cover all the basic and essential tools every watch enthusiast needs, or every watch collector. Now in my mind, a collection starts when you have more than 2 watches, and even at 1 watch there are some tools that you really need to have. So throughout this video I'll cover all the tools which I had before I started modding. When it comes to modding, there's just a whole another kettle of fish. There's just a lot more tools that you do need, and on my modding channel I do have a video that covers that. But for today's purpose, as mentioned in the community post that I did, not for modding, just collecting. If you're just an enthusiast starting up in the hobby, I know there's a lot of people that are just joining the watch hobby, of course, especially with AliExpress watches being so affordable. It just makes watch collecting a lot more accessible to a variety of different budgets. So before we go ahead, give you guys a wrist check. I am wearing the Seiko Gen 2 Orange Monster on wrist today. So let me introduce to you the first set of tools that you will need when you do start collecting watches. So I got to 3 watches before I got myself these set of tools, and I think I'm okay in assuming that pretty much everybody should have these. Now when you buy a lot of watches from AliExpress, these are a dime a dozen, you get loads of these, and these are bracelet resizing tools. Now they're very cheap, but they are very effective. I use these on almost every bracelet, but bear in mind when you do use these, you have to get sometimes slightly creative with it. Some pins are just a lot more difficult than others, and if you do use the older Seiko 5 watches, then these won't work on there. You know, they've got those removable bars, so you just need some of these hand tools to kind of pry them open. Now the second thing I have here is these are just spring bar removal tools. They can double up to help you on taking links out of bracelets as well. They're good for pushing out pins. They're good for using it with watches with drilled end lugs, like so. And you know what, again, these are a dime a dozen. They're very cheap tools, roughly £1, £1.50. You get them included for free on many watches, especially watches again from AliExpress. And you do need a few because you know what, they're not the best quality. They do get bent out of shape. Now I know there's a few people that use Bergeron branded tools, which I think for the price, yes, they're okay. They're a much more premium product. But again, if it is going to get broken and bent out of shape, then I suppose just stick to these and just have, you know, a handful in your watch box or toolbox, whatever, because you will go through loads of them, and it's the bare minimum that everybody should have. It doesn't make sense paying, I don't know, a watchmaker, a watch repair place. I think here in the UK I was using Timpson's and the price went up to like £8 every time you resize it, which is just ridiculous. And especially if your watch collection has just grown drastically in the space of a few months, which is what tends to happen when you join this hobby. Now soon enough you are going to start wanting to change your own batteries, for example, or do like a partial service on watches, which is what I started doing. So as mentioned before, you know, I did buy a lot of secondhand and used Seiko divers, and you know, I needed to really upgrade my tool set. So the next things which I bought was a caseback opener and bezel openers and caseback openers. So something like this will help you open the case back on battery powered watches, and again, it doesn't really make sense for you to spend the money for somebody else to do it for you, right? So this is just like a bezel opener here. You do have different versions. This is for bezels, case backs as well, but I like to use this for bezels. As you can see, it has had a fair bit of use. Recently I did change the bezel on this one, so I had to use this. And of course the caseback opener. Now a word of advice, the usual caseback openers that you see, those big metal ones with a metal handle and they've got the 3 pins, I had nothing but nightmare with those. Kept slipping. I damaged so many casebacks with those. I mean, even damaged my hands using them. I find these are a lot better, but you know, really tight casebacks, you know, you will get stuck, and then you need to upgrade to a bench vise, which I showed in one of my previous videos. But I think for the most part you will be okay with this. It comes with, you know, just normal set pins, and as you can see it is adjustable, and you know, it'll grab onto the back of your watch, help you screw it off. Sometimes when you do receive a used watch, it's good to give it a once over, whether you want to clean it or just really get a look at the movement. So you can remove the bezel, the case back, and what you'll notice, you'll have seals there. Now you want to check the condition of the seal. If the seals are okay, then what I would suggest is, here we bring another tool in, is some silicone grease. Now you can apply this on brand new gaskets, etc., on the older gaskets. And what it will do, it obviously add a bit of lubrication there. Now, what I found this particularly useful for was the gaskets on the insides of bezels. So majority of my Seiko divers, as mentioned, they were used, so the bezels were kind of gritty, they weren't really moving as they used to. So when you do remove them, apply some grease on the inside. What you'll find is it does restore the bezel somewhat. It allows it to move a lot smoother, and of course it extends the life of the silicone gasket that is between there. So I did this one just yesterday. Have a listen to this. Very, very smooth. And of course you can apply this to the Caseback as well. So now that you've got those out the way, you are covered for most of it. You're covered for, I think, the majority of your collection. So what you can do, you can open a bracelet, you can size a bracelet, and you can also do like a mini service, you know, or actually be able to open your watch, just have a quick look at it. Now, part of that does include a little screwdriver, because for battery changes sometimes you do have screws that hold down sort of retention clips, which you need to take off. Now, a note with these screwdrivers, they are kind of different, and you might have to hone your own one. What I mean by that is, if you get a small enough screwdriver, you do need to file it down just to make sure it does have quite a thin point, as a lot of the screws on watches, as you know, are quite tiny. Now, this brings me on to the next stage, cleaning. Okay, so for cleaning watches, what I use is just bits and bobs from around the house. I've got the end of a toothbrush here. You can use any type of brush. It does need to have some sort of integrity to it. It can't be a really soft brush, otherwise you're really not going to get anything out. You want one of these blowers, and of course just little brushes. I also use this 70-80% rubbing alcohol. Now, I find this is really good for removing grime, you know, just bits of dirt and dead skin that's trapped in watches. You know, I don't shy away from secondhand watches, like I said, so they do need a bit of a deep clean sometimes. Now, as well as that, you know, maybe like a little multi-tool, some pliers, etc. These pliers will help you a lot of the time. I've used these quite a lot. You know, they can get out stubborn pin and collar pins for bracelets, and they're really good for that. Once you do pop that pin out, you do need something to hold on to it. So, you know, just normal pliers will do. So these are your basic kind of hand tools you need, and I think every, again, watch collector should have these, because you do want to get hands-on with your watches. You want to really open up, see what you can do, and it is the first step to modding. Whether or not you continue that modding journey, that's entirely up to you, but at least it gives you confidence, you know, opening your watches, getting a look inside, and just taking it from there. While we're there, I'll bring in another tool now, which I think is very important. Even if you don't want to get hands-on with your watch, I still think you need it, and every watch collector should definitely have one of these. So this rather strange looking device is a demagnetizer, and it's absolutely essential that you have one of these, because, you know, over the course of weeks, months of you wearing your watch, there is a chance that it will get magnetized over time. Now, whether you're buying secondhand watches, or you've bought a brand new one, or even if you've got just the one watch that you keep for a long time, then again, this is going to come in really handy. Now, how do you know if your watch is magnetized? One or two ways. You know, if your watch isn't running right, it's either too fast, too slow all of a sudden, or it's running quite erratic, then the chances are that it is slightly magnetized. The second way to tell is, it's a bit more, let's say, scientific. Get a compass, and once that compass settles down, if you kind of put your watch close to it, and if that compass moves anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees, either way, if it responds to your watch coming closer to it, then the watch is definitely magnetized. So these tools, again, they're very cheap. I think $10, $15, $20 max, or £15. eBay, again, AliExpress, I'll link, you know, all the links that I need to in the description. These are required. So case in point, I recently showed you guys this beautiful SCV S001 Seiko Spirit that I bought. Now, when I put this on the Timegrapher, it was underperforming. It had a really low amplitude of around 200. It had a beat error of 0.4 after I adjusted it. It wasn't running exactly how I wanted it to. Now, I was planning to change a part in the movement, but before I did that, I thought, let's put this on the Demagnitizer, and let me put up the picture of the Timegrapher after I demagnetized it. the amplitude went up to 250, which is actually okay. Some watches that have an amplitude of 250 and it is still considered healthy. The beat error went down low as well, and also the speed of the watch seemed to settle itself. Now, I did say this is anti-magnetic, you know, for up to 60 goals or whatever, but obviously, you know, these being released in 2006, God knows when this particular one was made, so it's going to have exposure to magnetism as time's gone on. So I'm really pleased with that, and the fact that, you know, just a small thing here managed to get this running so right. Now, a couple of tips when you use a demagnetizer. It's quite easy. If you've got a bracelet, take the bracelet off, and you basically want to hover the watch over the magnetizer, just like a fingertip length. If it is an automatic watch that doesn't have hacking functionality, now this is quite important, let the watch run out of power reserve. If it does hack, simply hack the watch. Once you've done that, you simply press the button, a red light will show, and you start raising it above the magnetizer, so raise it up to like head level, just so you clear the magnetic field. Do that once or twice, and then you'll find your watch is running a lot better if it was indeed magnetized. So I think this is probably more important than the tools that I showed you before, but it's right after your bracelet sizing tools. Now, with this one done, we are nearing the end. Let me show you the most expensive tool that I think you should buy. And that, of course, is the Timegrapher. You already heard me talk about it. Now, the Timegrapher is going to be your diagnostic tool. While it is a very good indication of what your watch is running at, but it's not actually live data. So it'll tell you how fast your watch is running at a static position, but it actually won't tell you, you know, throughout the day what it's actually going to function. So you will have to put it on a wrist, go through the motions, you know, temperature changes, position changes, etc. Then you'll get a better overall idea. Of course, you can check it to different positions. You can use this tool to obviously regulate your watches, but you still don't need to do that when you have these. Again, as mentioned, it's a great diagnostic tool. And it's something to obviously check. Again, if you've bought used watches, you can see what they're running at to see if they need a service and kind of what's going on with the movement. It is obviously good to give your watches a health check. You know, if you've got a large sort of collection, then your watches won't rotate as much. So when you put a watch in after a long time, it's always a good idea just to put it in the Timegrapher and just to see what it's running at. It's actually very easy to use. You don't need to be a tech-wise gadget wizard at all. Yes, there's a lot of Chinese writing on there, but the menu is in English. You do have an English language setting. It's very basic to very easy to use. You've got the beat rate, which is set to auto, the lift angle. Now, the lift angle can be found on the internet. So when you Google lift angle on watch movements, it will tell you. So the Seiko H35s are 53 degrees. The test period and the language, of course, very easy to set. You know, you can also mute it if you don't want the noise going off. So you basically just put your watch on there. And it will register and tell you what your watch is running at. And I think in basic terms, right, you want to make sure the two lines that you got here, that they are running as straight or linear as possible and they're as close as possible. So that shows a good connection between the speed and the beat error. So if I were to zero both of these, what you'll find is the line will be one line, they'll both merge and it'll go consistently across. And these will set you back around 90, 120 pounds, depending where you get it from. So, you know, around the 180-ish dollars. But I think it's a worthwhile investment. It did take me quite a while to actually get myself one of these. I was reluctant for such a long time, but then my collection had gone to like 10-20 pieces. So I thought it's definitely worth investing, and I'm glad I did, because this comes out quite a bit. Again, I am diagnosing my movements, my watches, etc. I use it for regulation as well. But yeah, I think it's definitely a good tool to have. So just to quickly summarize, starting with your raw basics, spring bar removal tools, bracelet resizing tools, that's all you need. Moving on, the next level up, when you do have a fair few watches to look after, you want to get caseback removers, bezel removers if you're into dive watches, you know, a decent one that works, you know, functionality over everything. And then of course with that, you want some silicone grease, because that is part of maintenance. This is a very important piece of, you know, accessory equipment to have. Now, while you are maintaining watches, you're also going to clean your watches. So when it comes to cleaning supplies, just basics, you know, some rubbing alcohol, you know, bit of a blower here, some brush equipment, like I said, an old toothbrush. You can be as imaginative as you want, or maybe a file, like I said, for the screwdriver that you want to hone in. And you know, I have used this from time to time. This comes in really handy when you are modding. I will admit, not so much as a collector, so that's optional if you want to get that. Again, watch holder, and you know, the most expensive one being, of course, your Timegrapher, but a very essential one to look at again is a demagnetizer to make sure your watches are running healthy. So that's it for today. Hope you guys found it very helpful. I will link as much as I can within the description below. I'll also give the names for the tools, so you can have a chance at, you know, going to find them yourself. And I think a great journey of watch collecting and getting to this side is actually going out there, sourcing your own tools. This was something I had to do, so it's a great learning curve. And like I said, different tools for different people, right? So again, thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you on the next video.